mine should all be tested.
Okay, awesome. Welcome, glad y'all are here. And when you come up to sit in like the half circle. Yeah. Don't worry, you're not gonna have to sing or anything unless you want to. But you. Hey Harry. Can you? I just need to plug you in here. Another one, yeah. This is for the live stream. So
where are we live streaming to?
YouTube, our YouTube channel. It's for our parents who can't.
Oh, okay.
It's a hot mic, but we're gonna just test it real quick here. So please go into his. Do that.
Anything about this mic you want to do?
Just leave it off right now.
Okay.
Like leave it hot.
I wasn't really sure if he was Kelly. Good morning.
Good morning.
He was
Good morning.
Hey.
I can see you pondering. Is it in G or F? G. Okay, I need to transpose. Okay.
There's triple tagging.
Okay, well, we'll improvise with that.
I don't think it's the right idea.
Well, I mean, trust your intuition. You know, if you feel that it's good. What's that? Oh, is that me? Oh, wow.
Can you just say things test?
West 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. Testing. Once again, we test. Where do we test? I attest that we test. Good morning. So nice to see you.
I thought that we were cooking today.
Now, you have a...
Austin is 10. He's in 5th grade.
Oh my God.
And so I told Austin, if you see Harry today, you go say hello and tell him that Kelly's your mom.
That's really sweet. How are you doing?
Doing great. I was so thrilled to see that you're presenting today.
I'm delighted to be here.
Turn the volume down, yeah.
Hey, how are you? Nice to see you, sir. So are we good to go? Are we good to go?
Yeah, we can, if you want, we got 10 minutes, so we can turn it off until...
That'd be wonderful. Okay, so What?
About 20 years ago, I began a journey that has become one of the most important things in my life, which is Governor School for the Arts. That aligned with collegiate makes me really happy. I was part-time there because I was working, and I wanted to transition here, so I was part-time. But the point is that on Transylvania campus, I saw this man roaming around. He was hard to miss, and he would drop into studio classes and interact with kids, tell some jokes, and share some stories, make some observations on our work in studio class. And I began to have conversations with him outside of studio class and catch each other on the way to our work. He ultimately became the resident guest artist in residence at the Governor's School for the Arts. And I remember specifically one ride home from Lexington to Louisville. We got to talk, and it naturally centered on the students at GSA and their journey and their progression and their transformation, because I think it's a highly transformative program. But the deeper meaning of that conversation was about how the arts really transforms people. And if he'd been an engineer, and I'd been an engineer, or if I'd been a plumber, or he'd been a plumber, we'd probably talk about the way those activities can transform people's lives. But what brought us together was the arts. And what brought us together is the deeper meaning in the arts. And to quote Harry, the arts are a vehicle for connection. To quote Harry, the arts can, wherever you are as an artist, and we're all artists, by the way, wherever we are as artists, it can afford us living to our highest self. And to quote Harry, creativity must be in service to compassion. So I think it's easy to see why I fell in love with this guy, and I mean that in a most respectful sense to your wife. See why we have forged a 20-year friendship that has significantly changed me. So I am open to you about presenting for your instrument in education today. Very good.
Okay, stop right there. Stand on these stairs. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Harry. You're welcome. So I have great admiration for Sharon Kinnison, and for Collegiate. The last time I was in this building was like 20 years ago. So it's nice to be back. I'm going to start with a couple, can you all hear me okay? Good. I'm going to start with a couple of pieces of music that represent what I believe to be the central paradox in human life, and that'll lead us into our conversation about how you can help your kids. can name the two songs. What was the first song? What is that song about at its essence, at its core? What's its message? What's the message of What a Wonderful World? Love. What else?
Expressing happiness.
Expressing happiness. What else? Yeah, the idea that life is good, that there is wonder and awe and beauty in the world, right? Anybody recognize the second song?
I know it from Sting.
Yeah, Sting. It's called Fragile. And it was written maybe in the 90s, and it's about this young man who went to Colombia who was killed. And that song is all about the fact that life is precious. We never know when the last breath, the last moment, the last connection will arrive. So those two songs, on the one hand, life is amazing, wonderful, beautiful, precious, awesome. On the other hand, life is not permanent. And every moment is precious. So if you think about those two, I believe they represent the fundamental paradox of human life. None of us really know how we got here. We don't quite know where we're going. We can certainly have beliefs about that. But one thing that is certain is that life is filled with joy and suffering, delight and despair, heart awakening and heartbreak. So given that paradox, how do we then live? That's the question. So our topic today is about how you as parents can support and partner with Collegiate School, which is really on the cutting edge in terms of their focus on well-being and creating a truly healthy environment for young people to grow up in. And so we're going to explore some ways that we can navigate that fundamental paradox in a way that's good for you and good for kids. Okay, Jim. Okay, there we go. There we go. Fundamental paradox. So my question is, given this idea of life being amazing, but also being filled with difficulty and challenge, from your perspective as a parent, parents, guardians, etc., what are the most important qualities, capacities, skills, ways of being that you want to make sure your children grow up with in order to skillfully navigate the world that we live in? What are the qualities so discuss with your neighbor for a minute, what are the qualities that you feel, given that reality, we need to cultivate in our kids? Go ahead. We're going to play a little game that I play with kids sometimes, whereas a lot of the times I'm going to have you engage in a conversation like this. And when you see me raise my hand, raise your hand and end your conversation at that moment. Okay, you've probably seen that before. So go ahead, keep talking. Go talk among yourselves. We practice. Exactly, beautiful. So given this fundamental paradox, from your perspective, what are some of the things you want to make sure that your kids, your young people, your youth really are able to cultivate? What are the qualities? Anybody? What have you got? Yes?
Resilience.
Resilience, absolutely. Good. What else?
Kindness.
Kindness. Yes. What else?
Compassion.
Compassion, kindness, resilience. What else?
Self-compassion.
Empathy, self-compassion. Good. What else?
Respect.
Respect for self, others, etc. Good. What else?
Gratitude.
Gratitude. What else? Confidence. Yeah. What else? Openness.
Valuing each other and themselves.
Valuing each other and themselves. What else? What else?
Patience.
Patience. Good. What else?
Curiosity.
Curiosity. So I want you to take for a moment that quality that you just mentioned, that you just identified. To what degree in this moment do you embody that quality yourself? Just reflect on that. You don't need to rate it out loud, but 0 to 10, whatever quality you mentioned, if self-compassion, love, respect, resilience, whatever, to what degree do you experience those qualities in your being, in your day-to-day experience? Just reflect on that for a moment. Because what happens, what we now know from neuroscience and psychology is that emotions are contagious and states of being are contagious. And whoever you are around, the values that you associate with become yours. There's research, it's quite interesting. Everything from eating habits to exercise habits to whether or not we gain weight or whatever. There's significant correlation, not only in terms of us and the people who are immediately close to us, but even 2 or 3 levels out. So all of us in this moment are being influenced by one another's values and states of being. So where do we begin if we want to inculcate that in our kids? What would you say? We begin where? And that's what our time today is about. It's about how you can do that while also taking care of yourself. Continue. When Jim reached out to me last year to talk to Collegiate, one of the things that I really admired about what you said to me is he said, this is what we want. This is the kind of value and vision we want for this school. So how do we do that? What does creating the healthiest place for kids to grow up look like? So I'm going to share with you. Okay, move slide. Oh, there we go. Okay, good. One key idea. Whether or not you recognize it, you have a tremendous impact on the neurological and psychological development of your young person, whether you realize it or not. And it's happening 24/7, 365. It begins not with anything you say, but with how you are in every moment. One of the things that I do, in addition to play music and talk to people about these things, is for years and years, I've trained therapists and counselors in trauma reduction techniques. That is, tools they can use to help release their pain of their past. And I cannot tell you the number of people I've worked with in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, who are still crippled because of experiences they had as children. And the most significant experience of crippling is when they were in a family where their emotions were not recognized, or there were these stark contradictions where, mom or dad always told me this, but they were this, right? And so one of the first places we start is asking ourselves, how am I embodying those qualities that I want my kids to experience? Discuss that with one another. Just that idea about just suppose, if your kids had emotional, energetic X-ray vision, and they knew exactly what was going on inside you in any given moment, and they were constantly filtering and say, resilience, courage, compassion, love, all that, how are they showing up in me? How would that impact how you interacted with them? If you knew that on some level, they were perceiving all of those qualities. Discuss it with your neighbor for a minute. How would that change how you were with your kids, if it would? thoughts, reflections? What comes up first when we consider this idea? Yes.
It's not easy to think about in those terms. I mean, I guess my point was that I would be okay with it because we have to allow our children to see us fall down and us get back up.
Yeah.
And to be able to know that that's okay and that we're there to support each other.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Other thoughts, reflections, just on this idea? Yes.
I was saying that I think my daughter is a little sponge, and I realized it early on.
Yeah.
And I think it has inspired me to do better than before I had her, knowing that I have a little sponge soaking up everything.
Yeah, good. Other thoughts? Yes.
I think my son really does perceive so much of what's happening. It's incredibly perceptive.
Yeah.
So we're kidding ourselves if we think we're going to hide things from them. They really do see it all. And so, like that, we do need to try to kind of be the best version of ourselves. It's going to inspire them to be that.
Yes. And that being the best version of yourselves also starts with self-compassion for where you are. Any other thoughts or reflections just about that one idea? Because we're going to get really, really deep this morning. Yes, Kelvin.
I think it's interesting. A lot of us who have older children realize it maybe too late. If we're not at track, we're not practicing.
Yes.
Oh, we've done a good job, and they're little, and then we realize
Yes.
actually we haven't been practicing that, and now they're older, and I'm not doing a good job for myself.
So I've been part of GSA for 20 years. That's when I first met Sharon 20 years ago. And so like 250 kids. So I've probably seen, I don't know what that is, about 5,000 or 6,000 young people, 14, 15, 16, who are passionate about the creative arts. And I have this really wonderful opportunity to be sort of like an uncle or mentor, and so they'll tell me things that they might not tell, others. And there was one time I was doing a presentation for the visual art students, the very last day of GSA. And we were talking about what they learned through experience. And this girl, I'll never forget, this is maybe 4 or 5 years ago. She looked up with tears in her eyes. And she was talking to those of us who were mentors. And she says, "Thank you for being happy. Where I come from, I don't know any happy adults." And I was thinking that my life trajectory was going to be, I'm going to get to be an adult and be miserable for the rest of my life. And seeing you all has given me hope for my future. Think about that. She had no experience. And she wasn't here at Louisville in collegiate or whatever. She was in one of these sort of smaller communities. But the point is, this young woman, by that time she's 16, her entire life, she's looking for, what am I going to become in my future? And all she saw was unhappy adults. And there were tears in her eyes, and she was so grateful to be around people who were 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, who had a reason to live and were showing up with that passion and that life. That's the impact we make just by our state of being. So that's sort of the foundation for everything we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about some principles from psychology and neuroscience that can help you be a partner with Collegiate in creating the healthiest place for kids to grow up. If I can figure out how to use my fingers on this trackpad, help! Catch it. Yeah, Jim, thank you. I need you after all. I need you.
He's coming to the rescue.
I know. Yay! Okay, great. So there's 5 principles we're going to talk about. And these are really easy to understand once you get them, but they're based on how our brains function. Co-regulation, the idea is I am because you are. Neuroplasticity, today's thoughts build tomorrow's brain. Traumatic encoding, when the past is present and invades the present. Brain networks, it's about breathing in, breathing out, it's about alternating activity. And habituation, practice makes permanent. Those are the basic principles. Jim, I might need you again. No, I don't. Good. So the phrase, how many of you ever heard the phrase, I am because you are? Yeah, it comes from, I don't remember the exact country, but it is an African indigenous commentary about the nature of who we are. And the idea is that there is really no separate I. We all live in these, bags of skin and flesh and everything, but on a fundamental level, and actually on a more neurobiological level, we are not separate. So for example, look at it. Have you ever walked into a room or met somebody and you just felt good about that person? Yeah. Have you ever walked into a room and you met somebody and you feel like, I got to get out of here? Okay. Now, what was happening in that moment was you were attuning to that person's basic state of being, right? And there's a number of different, what happens is our brain and our bodies have a number of different ways that keep us safe. And so there are receptors in the eyes, in the hearing, in the heart area, in the gut, in the skin, that are constantly scanning every relationship, every encounter, safe or threat, safe or threat, safe or threat. Goes on all day long. And what happens is that interoception, that intuitive physical sense, gets translated into a feeling and a thought. I don't trust this person, or this person is safe and I can be myself. Well, what happens is your kids are always regulating to your dominant state of being. We know that when people come together and they're talking with one another and they're in high levels of rapport, several things happen. Their breath rate tends to synchronize. Their voice rhythm tends to come into harmony and rhythm. And they connect on all of these different physiological levels before anybody has to say a word. So that idea of co-regulation, what happens is young people need safety co-regulation in order for their brains to develop properly. If they are constantly in experiences of threat, then what happens, in fact, even in the womb, we can tell if a mother has been abused physically or psychologically, because her baby, when it is born, will have more brain matter, more tissue in the back of the brain, in the basic fight, flight, freeze component than in the prefrontal cortex. And so we know the whole idea is if mama's happy, everybody's happy. When mama is pregnant, her state of being is impacting the level of neurotransmitter production in her baby's brain. And that baby will be either born with a proclivity towards safety or a proclivity towards fear. And that's always happening every moment. So Sharon, could we do something that would demonstrate a little bit of this idea of co-regulation? Are you willing to do that?
Sure.
Okay, but come forward, please. So we're just going to perform a song. And what I want you to notice, I want you to enjoy the song because it's a beautiful song. But what I'd like you to notice, I want you to tune in to our relationship, what's happening between us as the song unfolds. Now, we haven't done this
For 6
in
months.
several months, and there's going to be some improvisation
I guess
here.
I don't need a mic.
I don't think
Sing out
so.
Louise. You're the ones who made my dreams come true. A few moments of
So what did you notice happening between us in that moment?
Feeding off.
Okay.
We were kind of feeding off each other's key physically.
Okay, what else? What did you see?
There's so much co-regulation going on between performers, right? Especially as an accompaniment.
But what did you see?
You're following her voice. She's leading, and then there's also some back and forth in the phrasing, extending some notes. You were right there with her.
What else?
Admiration.
Say again?
Admiration.
Okay. What else did you see?
Intense listening.
Intense listening. Okay. What else did you see?
Connection.
Connection. What else did you see?
Trust.
Trust. What else? Eye contact. What else?
Joy.
Yeah, so I have an invitation for you. The next time you're with your child, imagine that you were holding them energetically the way you saw me hold Sharon. Does that make sense? What am I saying here? Because it's sort of subtle, but it's about co-regulation. It's about presence. It's about just being there for them in this way, in this very sacred kind of way. Reflections.
Very present, not distracted.
Yes. So number one, what if you were with them? Oh my God. Not only put the phone down, put the phone away. I don't know if you know this research. When people have their phones out, it doesn't have to be even turned on. They will pay less attention to the person with them. There's research about people dating, right? And you're there on a first date with this person that you hope will be your boo, right? And you're both sitting there with your phones and you're not there with one another. I remember walking in Cherokee Park one day, years ago, and there were these two people, and it just freaked me out. It just completely freaked me out. But they were holding hands with this hand, and they were both talking on their phones in separate conversations with the other hands. So the idea here is what would happen? So what you saw in that moment, I hope, was presence and reverence, right? What if you were to be with your child in that way? Where you weren't looking to change them, to fix anything, to correct them, to inspire them, to whatever, but you were just there. Discuss with your neighbor, what would that be like for you? What might that change? You and me, full recital 2024 at some point.
Okay.
Just have to.
I have a list.
What?
I have a list.
So you should just send me the list. I don't care. A lot is relative. So, thoughts, reflections, comments. Thoughts, reflections, comments. Thoughts, reflections, comments. Yes.
What we were talking about is even more so than like the phone, when people put that aside.
Yeah.
You want to be there present with your kid, but the tasks of the day, of the week, of the month, like all build up. It's like, I want to be here for you, but we got to have laundry for tomorrow. We got to have food for dinner. We got to get showered. Like that stuff pulls you away from being in that moment.
So here's the question. Can you be fully present in the laundry? Can you be fully present in the kitchen? Can you be fully present as you're moving around? Because the catch is, this safety or threat situation is happening all the time anyway, right? And it's possible to have connection while you're doing the laundry. It's possible to have connection when you disagree. It's possible to have connection in the midst of all the tasks. The catch is, what do you do with your attention in that moment? Because when your attention is not present, then that's when disconnection happens. Make sense? Yeah, other reflections, thoughts? Yes?
Being okay with quiet, being okay with silence, and just being in that and being happy to be there.
Yeah, finding a way to connect separate from all of the distractions that are always happening. Any other reflections on that principle? Yes?
Shared. It almost, to me, it was almost like a freeing moment, right? Like, oh my gosh, I don't have to coach all the time, reprimand, like make you better, like how, it's like, let it go. I can just like be.
Yeah. I mean, what if you dropped, and I mean, this is not at all a denial of the need to do things and to support character development and so forth, right? But what if you drop the internal tension? So we're doing this hard thing, but I'm present for you. Again, the reason that I want to demonstrate that with Sharon is, for me, I love accompanying singers. I love like getting inside their breath, inside that, and get this kind of connection. And so for me, it's a perfect model of reverence, right? I'm not trying to fix her or change her. I want her to be the best she can be in that moment, right? And there's nothing that's in the way of that. So that's the first principle, co-regulation. I am because, all right, come on. Yeah, Jim, I may need you anyhow. Now, what is so hard about this? Is it my fingers? Is there another way to? You can't do it either. Ha ha ha.
The little arrow is going to be on the slide. See it? See that little arrow?
That little arrow?
Yeah, there you go. So when you...
All right, whatever. I might just go jam, whatever. So the bottom line of this is, we have a parasympathetic and a sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic is for fight, flight. Parasympathetic is rest, restore. The more time we spend, now that sympathetic system was designed to help us run away from tigers, right? To deal with immediate threats to our life, that then we have the threat, then we relax. In our culture, though, part of this has to do with 100 years of advertising that's designed to manipulate you into fear. Part of it's living in a culture, in a world where there's so many stresses. What happens is many of us live in sympathetic activation all the time. We live in a low state of stress, fight, flight, freeze. And what happens is the more we habituate that state, the more those around us will live in that state, and the more that becomes their way of being. And they're chronically stressed all the time. And then when they get 20 or 30 or 40 or 50, all sorts of health and other kinds of psychological problems show up, right? So one of the first things you want to be able to do is to move out of chronic sympathetic activation. Jim, let's see. Yes, there we are. So we're going to go really old school here. I'm going to ask you actually to read this out loud, because this will help you understand underneath why this co-regulation is so important. So let's do that. Just read it out loud. Co-regulation is crucial. Pause right there. We are regulating one another physically, psychologically, in every given moment. That's why this is important. Next sentence, go ahead. It teaches. Bingo. So right there, just think. How well do you manage your emotions and stress responses? Because you're modeling that for your kids. I can't tell you how many clients have come when I'm doing the work that I do around trauma. How many clients have come to me and they said, every time something would happen when I was a kid, my mom freaked out or my dad got angry or whatever. And so I never felt safe because their lack of emotional regulation spilled over into my experience, right? Next sentence, please. Children. Okay, continue. Good, we're just going to pause there. And just be with that idea of attunement. I remember reading research that the number one quality of parents who raise healthy children is the parents are chill when tough times happen. Whether it's external situations or internal situations, the parents are able to regulate themselves in moments of stress and difficulty. Therefore, the kids feel safe. Next sentence, go ahead. When parents So I want you to take a moment and just reflect on the implications of those ideas for you, your parenting, your kids, and discuss with each other for a minute. Implications.
It's all about the cursor. See where the cursor is?
Hold on, I need glasses. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. The cursor just has to be on the PDF. See the cursor?
I do.
So when it's up here, it won't work.
Got it.
It's down here.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Yay. Okay, good.
we're at,
Almost at 9.
yeah.
I understand. Thank you. So reflections. What are the implications of this for you? Implications for you. What are the implications of this for you, this idea? Anyone, yeah?
We were understanding to recognize those moments as parents that weren't so great, and then being able to change it the next time. Be cognizant enough and present enough and aware enough of what's awesome. Not doing this different because I know to do it well.
Exactly. Yeah. The bottom line in terms of co-regulation, center and connect. Center yourself and connect with reference as much as you can. Okay. Second principle, I'm going to move on because now this second principle, the idea that our brain is not stuck, but flexible and constantly changes in a number of different ways. So I want you to just take a moment. What new thing have you learned in the last 6 months? Have you learned anything new? Either a new recipe, a new skill, whatever. Let's reflect on that for a moment. What new something have you learned? How many people learned something new? Okay. So what is the process of learning something new like for you? What is it like at first? It's intimidating, it's awkward, whatever. Yeah, and then over time, what happens? What happens?
You're welcome.
Exciting.
Yeah, eventually that thing that you want to learn becomes more and more habituated. But what's happening whenever that happens is something quite remarkable. It's a study done a number of years ago with 2 groups of people, and they were learning to play the piano, basic scales like and they had group 1, they measured their brain in terms of the parts of their brain that organize fine motor coordination. And they measured before the experiment, and then for 2 weeks every day they practiced for 2 hours a day. At the end of the experiment, they measured their brains again. And what do you think they saw? New neural growth in the parts of the brain that coordinated fine motor coordination. They did the same with the second group, but the second group didn't practice at all. They imagined practicing in their mind. They mentally rehearsed for 2 hours a day for 2 weeks. Guess what the brain scan showed at the end? The same level of transformation. In other words, the invisible thought created a visible thing. The invisible thought literally catalyzed new brain growth. Here's an example of that you can actually see. Jim, I'm going to need your help here, sir. I want to click on that. It should. So once this gets started, what you're going to be watching is a time-lapse photograph of a brain engaged in learning something new. You get that? Okay, yeah. You know those commercials, this is your brain on drugs? This is your brain on learning in a moment. Oh, you gotta. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Perfect. Beautiful. So what you're watching, condensed into a few seconds, is 144 hours of what happens in a brain when it's learning something new. Could be a new skill, could be learning a musical instrument, could be learning a new language, could be learning a new technique of some kind. But what's happening is that act of learning is catalyzing physiological change in the moment, which means we are, in our interactions, supporting healthy neural growth in our kids. Beautiful. Let's go back to the slides. Yeah, next one. So this idea is that when you understand that your child's brain is constantly developing in these ways, and also that we can use imagination to catalyze brain development. Go ahead and read that one, please. Understanding neuroplasticity, everybody. Because in every moment, they're not only changing in terms of what you see, but they're changing in terms of how their brains are operating. Oh no. Okay. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. No, the next one after that. Yep. So the practical applications of this, you ever heard of fixed and growth mindset? Fixed mindset is the idea that I am how I am, it's how I am, and I'll always be this way. Growth mindset is I have the flexibility to learn. So the more you can display and support your kids and grow and hold a growth mindset, the idea of you're not a noun, you're a verb, you're in constant change, constant transition, the more you'll support their development. There's the cursor. Yeah, Jim. There we are. Yeah, just stay up here. Yeah, we had to change PDFs. We went from a slideshow to clicker and so forth. So traumatic encoding happens when we have an experience. It doesn't have to be big T trauma. It could be something very insignificant. But our brain codes it as a threat. And then our brain responds to future stimuli in that same way. So you're in 5th grade and you have a crush on somebody with red hair and freckles. They do you wrong. You are devastated. 30 years later, when you see people with red hair and freckles, you don't trust them. That's what happens because that experience got encoded traumatically. I had a person who came to me to leave this moment, for counseling. And her problem was she could never stop working. And I said, so tell me more about that. And I had her go back to her past, and she realized that that entire pattern happened her first week of third grade when she was sick and her mother wanted her to stay home. And she insisted on going to school. She had a perfect attendance record. And that idea that I can't stop because I have to stay perfect actually kept her trapped for all those years, right? I worked with another guy who's a lawyer who had GERD and was taking 2 or 3 Nexiums a day to manage it. And we went back into his past. When he was a kid, the last time he got a B was in 2nd grade because his father insisted that he get all A's. And he got all A's for the rest of his life, through school, through graduate school, through law school, and he also had an ulcer because he was demanded of having to be that way. So those experiences got encoded traumatically in those cases. Now, what you want to do is you don't want to be those parents, right? So what we know about traumatic encoding is the way around it is when you have a climate of safety and acceptance. That doesn't mean that you don't correct, but it means that you keep an environment of safety and unconditional love in the presence of that. Next slide, please. Oh, yeah, here we go. So go ahead and read that one. Recognizing how pause right there. That's the most important thing. When your child is experiencing anything where they're suffering, witnessing and supporting in the presence will limit the possibility that those traumas end up taking them to a psychiatrist when they're 50 or 60 or whatever. There's also psychosensory tools. Have you ever heard of tapping? Tapping EFT is a really good tool. There's something called havening. There's a number of tools that you can actually use that can help unhook those emotional charges that I invite you to learn more about. Beautiful. That's what we just talked about? Yeah.
I got it.
Thank you. Go ahead. Thank you, sir. So the practical applications for this is witness and comfort. That's how you help them address that. Next one. Brain networks. Your brain has 3 primary networks that govern all your activity. One is the executive network, which is about focus. One is the salience network, which allows you to be fully present in the body in the present moment. And the third is the default motor imagination network, where your creativity and also your worry rumination live, those 3 networks. What we now know from research is that balancing activity in those networks is really, really important. So one of the simple ways we do that is we balance our action with rest. We balance focus with release. We balance executive concentration with mindless play. So you want to make sure that those get balanced in some way. One of the best ways to begin to create that balance right now is to yawn. So I invite you to yawn now. Don't be afraid, nobody's looking at you. And follow the yawn with a stretch. And as you do that, notice what happens inside you as you yawn. And you can yawn, open your mouth all the way, close your eyes so nobody's looking at you. And close that stretch with some soothing touch. Give yourself a neck rub, or you can rub your face, or give yourself a hug. What do you notice happening inside you as you do that right now? What do you notice? Yawn again. It's okay. It's not impolite. Relax. What else? Is your mind quieter? Mm-hmm. Does your body feel a little more relaxed? That's because what you just did with yawning is you increased activity in the executive network, which means you focus better. You increased activity in the salience network, which means you feel more present in the body. And you lowered activity in the imagination network, your propensity to worry or overthink. So one of the fastest ways you can shift your state is yawn. Well, let's do it again, just for practice. Yawn, mindfully, and stretch. And then close the yawn with soothing touch. Okay, very good. Oh, wonderful. Next slide, please. I'm so happy for you, Jim. So read that one for you. Read that one, if you would. Awareness of different brain networks and their functions can guide parents in supporting executive network. Next slide. This last point is really important. What they've discovered is that if you spend too much time in intense focus, you literally burn out your neurotransmitters. So it's important that you spend time actively doing the work, and your kids spend time, but they also have time to doodle, to draw, to dream, to play. Really important, even as they get older. One of the things that the arts brings us all is that idea of play interspersed with what we're doing. So make sure that even though your kids are focused on academics, you balance that with time just playing, doodling, resting, etc. Beautiful. Next one. Final principle, practice makes permanent. Just as you practice scales as a musician, just as you practice kicks as a soccer player, the more you practice the ways of being, the more habitual they become. Next one, please. So go ahead and read this one. This is a really important principle, and I'll explain this as we talk about it. Principle highlights pause right there. Do you have rituals with your kids? Do you have things that you do on a regular basis that help you reconnect with them and your core values and what matters the most? My wife and I have a ritual that we do, whether we're in town or not. At the end of the day, we always do this one thing. We ask each other, what was the best thing today? One thing today. Just a ritual. You have a ritual with your kids where even when you greet them at the end of the day or when they come home from school, you can take 2 minutes to connect, to share, etc. So what are the things that you can what are the ways that you can habituate these kinds of ideas? Next sentence. Parents can use this knowledge What's important to realize is confidence and courage and joy and patience and persistence are all skills that can be cultivated consciously and deliberately. Tell Gil I love him, right? Take care. Beautiful. Continue. So the practice is you have rituals for helping your kids remember what's really important and the nature of your relationship. 2 minutes of silence, or 3 minutes of catching up, or anything that helps you reconnect. Next, please. Thank you. So 5 principles. Co-regulation, I am because you are. Neuroplasticity, today's thoughts build tomorrow's brain. Traumatic encoding when the past is present. Brain networks. I use breathing in and breathing out because breathing out is like the activity, breathing in is the rest, the rhythm. And habituation, practice makes permanent. So take a moment with one another because can we take like 3 more minutes?
Sure.
Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. Because we started a couple of minutes late. Just discuss with your neighbor, what is the single most valuable idea you've gotten out of today? Single most thing you've gotten out of today. Yep. And then there's one more slide. So thank you so much for doing this. I'm so grateful. You are. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. You're doing a fabulous job. Sensitive and present and all that. This is really wonderful what you're doing.
Thank you.
So beautiful. Every school should be like this. Yeah. Let's see. And so, today has been like a 3-day seminar in an hour. So thank you for hanging in there with me. What's been most valuable for you? One idea that you're going to take into your home. Yes.
Just sort of that technical piece that you said, not just putting your phone down, but literally like removing it. I think that can be one of the biggest distractors internally that you don't even realize what's going on. And not just for yourself, I mean, we can see for ourselves, but our children.
Yeah.
It's really say, it's not
Yeah, there's a lot of research on the negative impact of phones in teenagers' lives and everything. And one of the things I love about GSA is they can't have any cell phones during the day. And I've had kids thank me for that. They said, thank you so much that we can't access our phones during the day. Good. What else? Most valuable idea for you?
To give myself a minute.
Nice. Absolutely. Because they're going to know, What else?
I was going to say, I am because you are. I've heard that before, but.
I am because you are, yeah. We are all connected, more so than we sometimes want to realize. Anything else? Yes.
I like the yawn and stretch. I always hear about taking your breaths. I don't know do that.
Yawning and stretching is actually more powerful than taking deep breaths and so forth. So just explore that. Do that lots and lots. It doesn't mean you're sleepy. It actually is a way of regulating your brain activity. Yes, one more thing.
That you remind us all how interconnected.
Oh, absolutely.
Remind ourselves of that.
Yeah. And so next slide, please. So I want to say how important, I want to say thank you to Rob and Jim and Sharon. Collegiate school is on the cutting edge nationally around this focus on well-being, social, emotional, psychological, looking at the science and everything. And so it's just important that you realize that you are doing really important work. And the more you can partner with the school to help your kids, the better world we'll be able to create for all of us. So I think it's important that you acknowledge and thank the leaders here as well for really having this idea of creating a place that's the healthiest place for kids to grow up as part of the fabric of what they do. So that's everything I have to say. Thank you so much for being here. Turn it back over to you folks. And next time we'll spend a day together, whatever.
Yeah, just a huge thank you for everybody coming out today. I really appreciate it. And a big thank you to Harry for all of his leadership and work in this space and for helping us as a school. We're deeply grateful. So thanks. We can stick around for a couple of questions.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If that's all right.
Yeah.
If you need to go, that's all right. But if you have a question or two and you wanted to ask,
beautiful. Good.
Make sure that you get a chance to do that. So thank you so much for coming out. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
I lived in Louisville for 24 years. I just moved to Chicago this summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
What sort of things do you do in Chicago?
The same things I do here. Well, I mean, I'm in the process of like a whole career transition because I've become a specialist on ChatGPT and AI, and I consult with schools and organizations and people about how to use that to help us become more human, not less human. So that's the bulk of my work these days. And I play piano,
I'm curious for your thoughts. The well-being, and one of the things as parents that we struggle with sometimes is integrating these concepts with the actual challenges our kids face in rigors of things like the college application process.
Absolutely.
Exams and stuff where we know our kids are going to be tested for risk.
Yep.
And how much parents do you see people supporting that, or knowing their kids they're going to go through some stuff, and how can we do that?
I think you can be present, first of all, by acknowledging the realities of the tough stuff, having a conversation about them, exploring the idea that, really, I think contextualizing the fact that the world that our kids are growing up in is the hardest world that kids have grown up in quite a while, in a lot of ways. That doesn't mean that our experiences or our parents' experiences weren't difficult, but it means when you look at all of the uncertainties in the pace of change, this is a challenging time. So number one, co-regulating and acknowledging that, and being, I believe, having the combination of complete acceptance and compassion, and also holding the standard. managing the paradox. Does that help a little bit? Yeah, because unfortunately, there's no easy way out of it, and if you as the parent, you as the adult can model your own sense of centeredness, clarity, emotional honesty, then they get the model in that way. I remember hearing, this was maybe 20 plus years ago, a researcher in brain development at a conference. And he was talking to a group I was there with a bunch of people, mostly who are school counselors. And the counselor asked him the question, they said, Dr. Bruce Perry, that's who it is, Dr. Bruce Perry, said, well, I have 500 kids I'm responsible for, and how do I know that I'm making a difference, right? And he told this story, and I haven't thought about this story for 20 years, so pardon me if I don't get it completely right. But he talked about an experiment where they took rats or mice, and they had them swimming in this water, and they were measuring how long they'd swim before they gave up, right? And the first group, they measured, and then they tried, at a certain point, they're swimming, and when it seemed like they were about to give up, they were taken out of the water, and they were rescued. And then that group, they found the group that was rescued held that reference experience in their mind, and the next time they had the swimming task, they went something like 3 times further. So he used that model to say, okay, what that means is that when you have one interaction with a caring adult, you put that in your back pocket of your brain, so to speak, and you might pull it out 5 or 10 or 20 years later as the significant moment that inspires you and helps you remember how to be your best in that moment. So the idea is no interaction is wasted, no moment of authentic connection and presence is wasted. Does that help a little bit? Yeah.
All right, I do have to get him to, he's going to meet with the leadership group today, which is in about 5 minutes. I want to give him a chance to use the restroom.
That's all right.
Give him a huge...
Thank you for coming out. Really appreciate it. Thank you. All we've been recording it all together.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We have our ad.
Are they coming in here?
No, we're going to go to Scarbeck. It's right next door.
Don't leave without a hug. Don't leave without a hug. It's so good to see you guys.
I realized you had moved, which means I don't see you enough, but...
Oh, we're on Facebook.
We'll be around.
Exactly.
Yes.
I've seen you more in the last year than I have in 20, so it's all good.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Take care.
Great, Grace. Good morning.
Thank you so much. What's your name?
Chenault James.
Nice to meet you,
Nice to
Chenault.
meet you too.